All right, so our app is called Breadcrumbs. I'm Tori.
Lou and Cameron.
And the idea of our application is quite simple. It's to create an app that helps users navigate the inside of spaces in a way services like Google Maps don't, and allow individual users to upload their destinations and instructions in a sort of crowdsourced way. So, for example, here at the school, not all the buildings or all the rooms are numbered in a way that makes perfect sense. And for someone like a new student, it might be a little confusing to navigate around. Our application allows you to upload custom instructions that guide you from a main point of entry, such as like the side entrance or the main entrance, and then it guides you to your destination from there with instructions. The plan was simple. We would create a simple database which has, I can't zoom in there. It would have a location table and a destination table. The location table would hold all the relevant information to a location, in this case, such as Pittsburgh Technical College, and the destination holds any individual location within the college, such as the room we're in right now, room 603. The website we were creating allows us to manage everything in a website interface rather than through the app. So admins would be allowed to do any kinds of operations they would need to do with regards to managing users, any of the locations, changing that information, destinations, etc., while normal users can only view what they have access to. The application has a similar layout, however, it also has an actual navigation component, whereas the app just allows you to, or the website just allows you to modify things, since it's just an administration portal, essentially. In the app, you first start on up here at the top, and we will show a demonstration. This was the mock-up early in development. In the first page, you have the locations page with a search bar and a map. You can search for the location that you'd like to find a destination within, once again, like Pittsburgh Technical College, and then you then get a list of sub-locations within that location, such as like the main campus, the energy tech building, or student housing. You can go ahead and select one of those, and then you can go through a tree of different pages. First one being the destinations page, which allows you to select, say, a room. You could choose the cafeteria, you could choose the bookstore, you could choose room 603, like we're in right now. And then from there, you get your navigation instructions, which is visualized by an arrow with instructions written out that tell you where to go. Now we're going to switch to the website demonstration. Yeah. All right. Here's the website. So for the website, did you want to show off the website itself? Okay. So we can search for a location such as Pittsburgh Technical College, which is the default, but we could still show that it does. Navigate back there. And then we could register for, this just shows you the available locations that would be on the service. We can then register for an account here. All right. And that would be how we would confirm the email. Next, we can log into the service. You account we just created. And then once again, we don't have access to anything beyond the support page since we're just a regular user who just created an account. However, if I have Blue Login here, who has admin permissions, then you'll see that we have more options available to us. So we can go ahead and see all of the locations that are in the database. And right now we only have a few simple ones for testing purposes. We have the PTC main campus buildings, and then I added where I'm going to be interning as the second one. And I will show you how you can go about creating something like that just using the web service or using the app website itself. Sorry. So we could choose to edit any one of these. You could just change this to say internship, for example, and save it, and then it will be updated in the database. We could go to the details to see some more information, or we could go ahead and delete it, which I will do now. We can also show a search function, which works just as you'd expect it. You can search keyword, and it will show you location there. We also have some destinations. This is another test destination that I'm going to show how we could create directly with the web service. Once again, delete works just like you'd think it would. You press delete, it's gone. Here's the current destination here. We can go ahead and create one through here and give it an ID. ID that free, for example, destination name. Let's do the cafeteria. Destination tag, food, PTC, services, etc. And the directions for this would be spelled out in a certain, they follow a certain syntax, but for simplicity's sake, we're just going to do placeholder here. And a location ID, we could assign this to the main campus, which would be 0. And since we don't have an image linked to it right now, we'll put whatever we want. Same thing with the user ID for now. And then it appears. Next, we have accounts where we can see all of the accounts. We can also edit them. You can see all their details here. You could delete some, like for example, I could delete that account I just created earlier. It's as simple as pressing delete. Beyond that, we have the roles. The main role we have here would be admin, and by default, everyone who's not an admin is just a user. And then lastly, we have the statistics page, which shows an overview of important information you'd want to see as an admin here, like a trending location, which is the location with the most destinations on it, our user count, how many locations we have, how many destinations we have, and so on. Next, we're going to move to the web service as soon as I get this switched over here. Alrighty, so we're in Postman now, and in Postman, I have a few operations already prepared here. This says locations, but it should say destinations. And these operations are the normal CRUD operations you'd expect. You have create, read, update, delete. And you can see here that when we search, it does take a little while because we're using the free service tier for the web service hosting on Azure. So not the fastest response in the world, unfortunately. But whenever it does load, you'll see that that modded destination should disappear because we did delete it in the website as well.
Wonderful weather we're having, guys.
Honestly, great weather outside. So any day now it will decide to load. And when it does, you should be able to see essentially the way it's going to work is if you search nothing, if you provide no parameters here in the search string, you will get all results. Otherwise, anything you input will become a search parameter, and it will search the destination name and the tag for those things. It did this last time. There we go. So you can see we have those two destinations, including the one we created earlier. If we wanted to go ahead and create another test destination, we could do that with this. So we have a bunch of parameters here. You can see we have this long, very long URL, which if we go ahead and press send, it says insert entry fired. We can go back to the search, and we should see it appears. Test destination, this is test, yada, yada, yada. Automatically gives itself the next highest ID. I'm going to go ahead and update that one. So the way that works is we could find its ID, which double checking was 4. And then what we can do is we can change this destination name to modded. If we leave all of these blank, you'll see that it automatically fills it with a default thing, so it can't insert no data at all, which is probably preferable than it failing completely. We should get that updated. Yep, with the default placeholder values instead. To get that to actually update everything, whatever application is sending these requests would need to be formatted in a way so that it has each of these values populated with what you want to update or not. If you want to keep it the same, you need to keep it the same in the request. And lastly, we can go ahead and delete that one simply by grabbing it by its ID and deleting it by its ID. And we shall see that it no longer exists. Gone. All right, next we'll be moving on to the application. Just one moment here while I pull that forward. Yep. Alrighty, now we have the application here, very similar to the website. You have your map with all the available locations. We have it set to Pittsburgh Technical College by default. We can look up a location here, and we should get some choices. For example, the main campus building. And we can choose a destination within the main campus. For example, where we are right now, room 603. And we should get this little widget that tells us where we need to go from the entrance that we select. So we would have the main entrance and side entrance. The main entrance should be by default here. And that's the 4th floor entrance, the one most people take to get into the building. So to get to room 603, you would walk past the bookstore, past the first ramp, and down the hall until you reach the second ramp. You take right up the ramp all the way to the 6th floor, and room 603 will be directly ahead. We could switch to the side entrance too to see how we would get there. You take the stairwell immediately to your left once you enter that side entrance, all the way up to the 6th floor. Oops, I pressed the wrong thing. Seems to have malfunctioned there. Moving on from that, that was working a second ago. We also have it available for things like the cafeteria. It's roughly the same for everything, and you could go ahead and search for any one of the other locations of PTC. Same concept. And yeah, that's basically the app in its current state. Next, we can show off the code. So let me just stop there. Yeah, if you can zoom in PowerPoint, let's see. I think so. Yeah, I see. Yeah, there's a zoom function. All right, so here's the, oops, this is the website behind the scenes. First thing we have here, yeah, that's zooming. I can move up. First thing we have here is the code for the map. This is a JavaScript that just consumes the Google Maps web service to display the locations. This doesn't have anything to do with how we navigate within buildings. That's all handled by the database and the applications that consume it. Essentially, it's just it's in the simplest way to put it is this is just what consumes the app. It's the JavaScript. Blue could tell you a little more about it.
It is in its current state just boilerplate Google Maps API consumption.
All right. And then that just continues down here. Then we have the operations here. For the website, this is how, there we go. This is how the website handles the create, read, update, delete operations that we showed earlier, starting with, this is how it reads. This is how it shows the details specifically. This is the creation code, and then the edit code, and then lastly, delete code. And then it has to post the deletion to the database there with that last bit. Then we have the statistics page. Oops, I don't think so. No. We have the statistics page here, which is pretty simple here. It's just showing us the counts of each of these things, the counts of the locations, the counts of the destinations, counts of the users, and then also finding the location with the highest number of attached destinations there, which was the trending location that we saw earlier. And then this is how the web service works behind the scenes. These are the classes for it. This is the class for the destinations, class for location. There's a bunch more getters and setters as you'd expect, but essentially it does that for every single variable in here. Then next we have the controllers, starting with the create controller. What I'm using is request mappings here, loaded up with a bunch of request parameters for each of the different variables in the table. Then you just send all of this over in a request, a post request, and it submits, it does a query to the database with all those values in there. And then it should update into the database like we saw earlier. Then we have read, so it's a simple REST service if you couldn't guess by now. And the read is similar. The only special thing with this is if you don't type in anything, it runs select all from location or destination if this was the destination controller. Otherwise, it does it with the search string that you implemented, as you can see here. That's the SQL for that. It gets all that so it can package it up and send it as JSON. Then update is very similar to create, however, it's updating, and because it's updating, you do need to supply it with the location ID or the destination ID if it was destination, so it knows which specific one of those you want to change. And then it's pretty much the same thing, just using put instead of create. And that's the SQL for it there. I can zoom in a little bit. And then delete. And the app. So the app's what we like to call a interactive mockup. Unfortunately, we're having issues with the actual .NET MAUI app. So we had to make something so we could present something to show you what it would look like if it was working, rather than nothing at all. I still think we did some pretty cool things to get it to work. This is just how it works on the homepage. Very simple. It's hard-coded, as you can see very clearly. The reason why it looks like there's a search at all is I have a script underneath this, which I didn't show in JavaScript, which just as soon as you type something, just shows you these locations here. It changes the display from none and gets rid of that. And then moving on, we have how the destinations page works. Once again, very similar. You click it, it takes you to this page, and you can go ahead and select one of these destinations that's working or was working earlier. And from there, the navigation is JavaScript here. It creates all of these XML tags. And then from there, you have your like the main interface here. It creates upon like when you open a new destination. So you have the main entrance, the side entrance, buttons, then you have the back, the finish, and the next buttons at the bottom, as well as the instructions in the middle. And these are all the variables for it. And then it adds event listeners to each of the buttons. And then it does an update which cycles through the instructions and the arrow image. And it gets those from these variables here. That's all there really is to that. Any questions?